A long overdue episode 31 here on the Loose and Groovy Baseball Show. I didn't look back as to when our last recording was, but I know it's been a couple weeks by now. Tried to record last week, had some Wi-Fi issues here. So hopefully we can get this one up and get this one going. It's been a while, so we have a lot to actually check in and talk about here, just with standings and teams and whatnot. So yeah, it's been a minute, Parker. I know you're home right now, so how's it going?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to catch up with us. I feel like, how long did you say it's been? It's been like 3 weeks.
Definitely, I think we last uploaded like May 28th, in terms of like actual full-on podcast. So I don't
Wow.
even know when we recorded that. So I think 3 weeks maybe.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack here.
All right, so we're gonna dive right into it. Typically, how we start off these episodes is go over the standings, which is what we're gonna do again. I'm gonna cover the AL. We'll talk about it a bit, and then we'll give it to Parker for the National League, and then we'll talk more about it. And then we just have a couple more talking points from these last couple weeks, some big headlines, I guess you could call them, and some interesting things to follow as we get into the later summer days of the season. So to kick us off, we're going to go in the AL Central. The Tigers are extending their lead. Doesn't look like they're going to let their foot off the gas. They're 46 and 25, still the best record in the MLB, and they're increasing that gap. Then you have the Twins, who are 9 games back. They're 36 and 33. The Guardians are 35 and 33. The Royals are now 2 games below 500. They're 34 and 36. And then the White Sox are 23 and 47. Moving over to the AL East, the Yankees are 42 and 26, still in first place. The Blue Jays are starting to become a firm second place team, I guess you could say, at 38 and 31. They've been hot. But the Rays are also not too far behind another really hot team. They're 37 and 21, 5.5 games back. Then we have the Boston, 35 and 36, still struggling to find their footing. They're 8.5 games back. And then Baltimore's 28 and 40. And then wrapping us up in the AL West, we have the Houston Astros, who have taken a pretty big lead in this division, definitely since last time we checked in. They're 39 and 30, also have been a very hot team. The Mariners have got themselves back to 500. They're 34 and 34, followed by the Rangers, who are 34 and 36. The Angels are 33 and 35, 5.5 games back. And then the Athletics are 27 and 44, 13 games back. Is there anywhere you want to start just talking about some stuff?
Let's just stay in the West.
Okay.
I guess the question that we were kind of talking about before was like who do you think's gonna like actually win that division? And like is there any competitors besides the Astros? If you want to get a start on that one.
Yeah, I honestly think this is going to be the Astros division. I think so obviously, and we could talk about this with a lot of teams right now, where you have the hot and cold stretches of a season, and
Hmm.
you're gonna have teams. I mean, every team it feels like every competitive team is gonna have some definitely some dry spurts and then some hot spurts, and then I think the best teams are the ones that stay pretty good in that in between time because you know those rough stretches are gonna come, and I think the Astros are the best team that prove that they're doing it this year and they have done it in the past too,
Hmm.
where I don't even think it was, they did get off to a pretty slow start, but even in the middling period that they had in like, I would say for the month of May, they were always still kind of hanging around,
Yeah.
never really going too much or too below, like, and like being out of the division. But now we've seen them get really hot, and I think they're going to hold on to this. I say that I don't have much confidence in the other teams of this division. Um, the one team I could see would be the Mariners, but I think the Rangers still worry me with their offense. They've been getting better as of late. Um, and if the offense does come around, you could watch out for them because that pitching is still probably going to be pretty
Hmm.
lethal. But they're not really a team that's going to worry me as of right now. The Angels are about hot and cold as any team in the MLB, and so yeah, seeing them 2 games below 500, you could maybe consider them, but I just again, they're a team that's not really built for these kind of pushes. And later into the season, I think we're going to see more up and down from them. And then the Mariners have really been a team that's struggled recently. I know the offense has really taken a huge dip outside of Cal Raleigh. Jorge
Yeah.
Polanco has not really been the same. Julio Rodriguez has still kind of been a average hitter. Randy Rosarina, maybe you'll get a good game or two out of him every so often, but outside of that, I think the Astros are one of the more well-built teams in this division, and again, going off the pedigree in past years, I think they've proved that they're built to withstand these long seasons, and not even just from a talent wise, but just I feel like their team identity, they kind of show that. And so it's really hard for me to bet against the Astros right now. 4.5 games up, looking really strong. Um, and that's not even without Yordan Alvarez, which, the timetable on him I think is
Mm.
still kind of foggy because it's a hand issue. So we don't really know about him. I guess specifically player-wise, Paredes has been playing pretty well. Jeremy Pena's having, I guess you could call it a breakout season. He's been playing really well. Yiner's been starting to get hot. And then a couple of our young pieces like Cam Smith is up. Jacob Melton, I think, is who they called up. I think Melton's his last name, I
Yeah,
forgot his first name.
Elton.
Yeah, Jake Myers out in center. Yeah, I think I'm pretty confident saying that it's going to be the Astros. Do you have any disagreements with that?
I mean, I if we said any team besides the Astros, I think we'd be doing them a disservice because like this team every single year they're the best in that division besides what like that Rangers season, and even then I think the Astros still won the division that year.
Yeah,
Um, it's just this is just what they do, and like what you said about their lows and like the consistency, I agree with that. And even when you do see the lowest of the lows for the Astros, you can almost guarantee they're going to rattle off like a 6 or 7 game win streak and get right back in it. Because I know like last year they were 10 games back to the Mariners early in the season, and then they like went on like a 75 win percentage for the next like 40 games.
yeah.
And at that point, it's like you look at the standings again, and it went from 10 games to like a 1 game, and then they ended up winning by like 5 games last year. So this is just what they do. They're never going to go away. And now that they're starting to build this cushion, it should be even more scary for Mariners fans, Rangers fans. And I don't think it's crazy to say that Angels have as good of a chance as the Mariners and Rangers do. I mean, they're going to be so like trigger happy at the deadline. Perry Minasio, he's gonna like try to go and get guys, maybe like a Zach Gallen or like a Dylan Cease or like they're gonna push everything on the table, and it's gonna put more pressure on the Mariners and Rangers that are trying to compete for that division. Do I think that the Angels have a chance? I do not. Um, but yeah, this is probably the Astros division to win. Um, it's hard to go against that, honestly.
If the Angels
And yeah,
buy, do you think they have a chance at the wild card?
I, I really don't. I mean,
They're
eh,
2.5 games out of the wild card right now.
2.5 games out of the wild card.
I think it's the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Twins currently hold the three positions. So if the Angels are buyers and thinking about kind of those other three teams, maybe some of the other teams that are close, kind of on the outside looking in, could they make that push to kind of fight for a wild card spot? I think they could.
Okay, I'll throw a name at you, and you say if this is enough to compete, to like actually be competitive. Because right now, if they stand pat, I don't think they can compete. If they went and got Zach Gallen for that rotation, do you think they are competing with like a 50% chance at getting a wild card spot at the end of the year? Just Zach Gallen, who's
Mm,
been bad this year.
yeah, no,
He
I
hasn't
don't.
been good.
I don't think Zach Gallen really does much for them. I would target an offensive piece. I think there's still too much uh like too much up and down on the offense for me, and it probably is the same for the pitching. But I
Yeah.
mean, Joe Adell has been one of the better hitters in June. All of a sudden, randomly, that's not going to be a consistent thing. Um, we've kind of talked about the core with Neto and Shonowell and Ohapi and everybody, but is Trout going to have another stint on the IL? Are any of those other guys going to go down? I think they need to target offensive pieces. I think that's going to be the most help, especially if they don't dump off any of their old veteran signings. Like you still have Kikuchi, you still have Kyle Hendricks, Soriano's looked pretty good this year. I think offense is where they need to target. And I don't think a Gallon really does much for you, especially for what you'd probably pay for him. I
Yeah.
don't know what his price would be with, his ERA, I think still in the fives this year. Um, yeah, I don't think that does much for just a Zach Gallen.
And I do want to make a point on the Mariners. So up until this year, the Mariners, their identity has always been pitching, right? Like you always,
Yeah.
especially that starting pitching, which they're a little beat up. I'm not sure about the injury status of all their starting pitchers right now, but I know that like it hasn't been like the core five all year.
Yeah. Kirby just came back. Gilbert is still working his way back, I know.
Okay.
So I mean, at least your front two have still kind of been out most of the season.
hmm
So yeah.
So right now they're what was their identity? They're now 20th in ERA at a 4.03. And their pitching, like that was always, like I said, that was their identity. They would always rely on their pitching. But now when they have to rely more on their offense and when their offense is slowing down as it is right now, that's very scary. They are still 11th in the MLB and OPS at 723. But like I said, when you start to see the offense slide and your pitching's not as elite as it usually is, it's just that's when you go on these like I think they're 2-8 in their last 10, those type of stretches. And like we were saying with the Astros, who are consistent and like their values are like 4-6 and 5-5 in their last 10, the Astros are still getting games, taking more of a lead during these times when the Mariners are
Yeah.
playing so poorly. So
And
I
even
think,
looking, you could look at the above 500 records. Astros are 25 and 20, Mariners are 15 and 20,
yeah.
which is definitely something you could also make an argument about too. We can also, while we're in the American League, let's talk about the Blue Jays. That's a team I really wanted to talk about. I think a couple weeks ago when we were recording, the AL East was a bigger topic for discussion where I think Boston was sitting, or these three teams in the middle they're still very close, but it was more so like which one of these three teams is kind of really gonna kind of fight for second place, I guess. The Yankees, while all these other teams are battling out, the Yankees have kind of continued to slowly pull and pull away.
Yeah.
Um, but now you have the Blue Jays who have kind of emerged as a front runner for a wild card spot in the American League with I think they're 2 games up on any other team in the wild card, 38 and 31. I don't know what the win total of like their past 15 is. I'd say it's like maybe 11 or 12 out of 15 that they've won.
hmm
But yeah, you're kind of seeing what can happen if this Blue Jays team can click. Some guys I definitely want to highlight. Alejandro Kirk has been excellent in this stretch.
Yeah.
And honestly, throughout the whole season, I looked at his numbers the other day. They've been pretty good, and I think people are starting to now kind of just pick up on him, especially me. But then you have young guys in Ernie Clement and Addison Barger also who are producing. Vlad is still not ex like having an explosive season in terms of like what we've seen from Vlad, but his numbers are still very strong. Bo Bichette, I know, has kind of found his footing again. I know it's better than last year, but he's contributing now. George Springer has been better than I think anybody thought he was going to be. Um, yeah, the team is just kind of playing great. And I guess my question would be to you now, like, again, we've talked about like stretches and hot stretches and, teams that go on these big runs. I mean, we saw the Phillies do it a couple weeks ago, and now I think they won like 9 of their last 10, and then they lost the following like 9 of 10.
hmm
So I guess my question for you would be, do you think this is like just kind of a lucky or hot stretch for the Blue Jays, and we'll kind of find them middle out back to a
Yeah.
middle of the pack team? Or do you think this is their wild card spot to lose for the rest of the season?
I would probably say it's their wild card spot to lose. And purely because the American League is just so weak
Hmm.
that like one of these teams has to come out, and it seems like the Blue Jays want it the most. And like you were saying, I'm looking at their fan graphs, and 7 of their 9 guys in their lineup have a WRC plus over 100. And then their backup catcher, I want to throw some light on him. Tyler Heineman, 1.5 WAR in only 23 games and 60 at bats. He's batting 424 with a 1.046 OPS
Hmm.
as a
34
backup
years
to
old.
Kirk.
34 years old. He's played 2 years in the MLB or accumulated 2 years of service time.
Yeah. So when you got when you got top to bottom guys producing, and then you look at their top three of the rotation, it's just these old guys, Barrios, Bassett, and Gosman, who are extremely durable. They're gonna throw like 200 innings every year, so you can count on them pitching. They all have like a mid threes ERA, and when your offense is playing that good, like that's gonna keep you in every single game. And honestly, this sounds crazy, but like in the playoffs, if you have those three kind of clicking, like veteran guys that are gonna be like calm in the playoffs and just I whether they've been there or not, I don't think many of them have much experience between those three in the playoffs,
Mhm.
but that could be scary if this offense is clicking too. So I definitely think they're gonna it's their wild card spot to lose. Um, and maybe compete with the Yankees for that division. I mean, it's only 4.5 games where it's still early, so you never know.
Yeah, I will say, I think the one thing that gets me a little worried with the Blue Jays, and maybe this would be a good thing if you want to look at it that way, but right now their OPS leader is George Springer with an 838. And I did say Vlad has not been like Vlad. OPS 794, 128 WRC plus. The walk to strikeout numbers are really good, and I don't really have any worries that I mean we had a big discussion about Vlad at the start of the year where you were more on the high end of him and I was more on the conservative side of like what his numbers would be. And not that I thought they'd be like this, but we've seen like the highest of high seasons of Vlad and then his lower seasons are like still really good, but not at the same level. And maybe this could be another one of those seasons where it's just not gonna be like it's not gonna knock your socks off pretty much.
Yeah,
But I think we will see hot stretches of Vlad where he is kind of that superstar that they just signed him to be, right? Um, but I would say I I think the Blue Jays, I think for like recency bias, it's so easy to fall into like them kind of holding on to this for the full season. I don't really think I'm going to buy into that just yet. I want to see more from their stars, specifically Bo Bichette and Vlad. If these two can kind of be the front runners, the leaders of this team, and then you have a Springer, a Kirk, even like Jimenez, and then now Barger and Ernie Clement kind of following in line, then I would buy more stock into this team. For now, though, I think this team just kind of went on a good stretch, and I'm not saying they can't do that again, but I don't think I'm ready to just lock them into this spot because for the better half or like the first quarter of this season, we saw them just be kind of that 500 middling off team. So I I think I'm going to hold off on that. I think they definitely are still well within line to like do that, but
yeah.
I want to see it a little bit longer from them and a little more sustained kind of good baseball like this. So
It is very interesting what you said about Vladdy. This is definitely one of those like lower like tier statistical seasons for him. You look at all of his years, he is not like he's either that 800 OPS guy or that elite guy. Going by his OPS, 772, 791, 1.002. That was his big breakout year where he had 48 home runs. Then back down 818, 788, and then back up to the elite 940, and then now 794. Like he has not had like a season where he's had like an 850 OPS. Like
yeah,
it's either 800, like people get people to talk about him being overrated. Like, is he really that good? Is he just like a above average player because his glove isn't good? And then he'll have that elite season to get you to be like, oh yeah, he deserves this massive contract.
yeah.
So it's definitely back and forth. And next year he'll probably have like a 960 OPS, and then he'll go right back down. So it's very interesting to look at those stats.
I will say also, the Alejandro Kirk extension is looking pretty good for Toronto right now. It was a 5-year, $58 million contract for the Blue Jays, so making around 11 mil, I think 11, $12 million a year, and that's through 2030. So he's also only 26 right now. So I mean, if he keeps, I mean, even. I think just seeing this has to be so encouraging for the front office, Blue Jays fans, because we always knew like the glove behind the dish was going to be there, like very much a defensive-minded catcher. But now I'll just go through like the offensive numbers. This year he's batting 328. That's the highest it's been throughout his career. Slugging 441, and that's an 811 OPS. He's already matched his home run total from last season in half the number of games.
Hmm.
1.5 B WAR. So I think it's already, I mean, and again, for a guy that's 26, now that you have kind of your catcher of the future locked down for another 4 seasons after this season, that signing is looking very good for Toronto. So kudos to them. Let's see. Do we have? No, I think we're ready to move on to the National League unless you have anything else.
Well, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, National League. So we're gonna start with the NL Central. We have the Cubs holding that division at 42 and 28. They have a 4.5 game lead over the Brewers, who are 38 and 33. And then we have the Cardinals, Reds, and Pirates to finish it off. And then looking at the NL East, we have the Mets, who have best record in the National League, second best in the MLB. We have the Phillies in second place. They're 4.5 games back at 40 and 29. Little 2 game win streak after that rough stretch. Then we have the Braves, who have been. I have a talking point though, so I'm not going to talk about them much right
Okay.
now. But 30 and 38 is kind of rough. And then followed by the Nationals, who are on a 6 game skid right now. And then to finish that off, we have the Marlins in that division. NL West, we have the Giants just pulling and tying with the Dodgers at 41 and 29. We have the Padres close by at 2 games back with 38 and 30 record, and then the Diamondbacks, who I'm not sure what to even think about them, 0 run differential, 35 and 34, and then we have the Rockies to finish it off at 30, 13 and 56. They're 4 and 6 in their last 10, so watch out for them. Um, talking point. Do you wanna bring something up first?
Yeah, let's see. Where do I want to go here? There's a lot of interesting things I feel like you could go to.
I'll start us off. So my
Okay.
question is,
Yeah.
and we've brought this up a lot, do the Giants or Padres have a realistic chance at winning this division? We brought this up constantly, and like they're always right there. And now that they've tied the Dodgers, or I guess the Giants have tied, like, is this all just kind of, are they just padding their wild card spot, the Giants right now, or are they actually like going for that division, you think?
Well, I would definitely say they're going for the division, but in terms of I still think it's the Dodgers to lose. I'll keep it short. And what I mean by that is I think I think they're going to win the division. I think the Giants are catching the Dodgers at a super convenient time, I would say. The Dodgers injuries, specifically to the pitching staff, have been super rough. And I guess you could say, they touched up Yamamoto last night and they got him for, I think it was 4 or 5 runs. The Giants did. And Adames, I think, has hit 3 home runs in the past 4 days or 4 games or whatever it is. Um, I think it's just so hard for me to get bet against the Dodgers, and I guess that might be like short-sighted of me because you could probably argue the Giants have been maybe a better team than the Dodgers this season. Because the Dodgers honestly at points have not looked like kind of this uh undisputed best team in the league, NL West like runaway champion, like kind of like that team that we were expecting them to be. Um, and now all of a sudden the Giants are knocking on the door of taking sole possession of first place. But I do want to go through the injuries that the Dodgers do have on their lineup
Yeah.
right now because I think that is a big part of this. Um, and they also had a couple injuries on the offensive side. Not that I don't know if they have any right now, but I'll just go off the pitchers right now. So Glasnow, 60-day IL. Gonsolin is out. River Ryan, but he's out for the year. Roki Sasaki, Sheehan, Blake Snell, Gavin Stone, and a couple of these guys I just listed off are done for the season. You also have Phillips, who's had Tommy John, so he's not coming back. Trinan's on the 60-day IL as well. Grove, Gratterall. So no injuries to the offense right now. It's more so the pitching that is really taking a brunt of it. So right now they're running out. It's Yamamoto, Kershaw, Dustin May, and then Kasparius looks like he's getting some starts coming out of the bullpen, but I think they've added him to the rotation officially now. But I mean, like, so like the 4 names, or like even just the 3 names I read off with Yamamoto, Kershaw, May, like it's good, but it's not super strong, I guess you could say. You could
Yep.
point to a lot of other 3 starting pitchers in the league and really, I think, make a good argument that that's better than that. And that's really to no fault to the Dodgers. I think just injuries have been an absolute killer. And I guess looking at this list, you can expect probably to get Sasaki back at some point. Um, Gonsolin will be back at some point, and then Snell and Glasnow are kind of tricky ones because they're 60-day IL guys, both with shoulder inflammation. I really don't know what the timetable is on them, but if you can get them back late at the season, I think that would be good especially if it's going to be close. But My main argument would be with the offense here, and I just don't think the Giants offense matches up to the Dodgers offense at all. Um,
Hmm.
you could make that argument with Shohei Ohtani alone, 994 OPS. But then Freddie Freeman, a guy that's not really talked about as much as he should be, 979 OPS, 171 WRC plus. Even Will Smith, probably like one of the most underrated players in baseball, 918 OPS this season, 161 WRC plus. Um, and yeah, I think the Dodgers offense is built way better, honestly, and they're so much deeper as well. And I think over a long season like this, where yeah, the Giants might kind of ping pong with you back and forth, I think it will be the Dodgers that end up taking it, no matter what happens. And honestly, the fact that they've still been this competitive with all the blows to this rotation, and the bullpen even too, um, I think that just proves that I think it will only get better for them, to be honest. So I think the Dodgers are still going to be my pick for the West. But I can throw it back to you if you have any disagreements or if you're going to say something similar.
No, I wish I had something like super like groundbreaking, but this, like you were saying, this offense, Will Smith, I saw a thing that said he was sixth in WRC plus in the MLB, not just among like catchers.
Yeah.
So like this team, you got three guys with above 900 OPS, and then everybody else is also like very good. Like
Hmm.
Mookie Betts is not going to end the season with a 765 OPS. Like
Yeah.
you can almost, I would chalk him in for like an 830 plus OPS,
Yep.
like anything around that. And like you look at their utility guy, Sung Kim has been amazing. I know you love him
Hmm.
more than anybody probably does. 184 WRC plus with a 997 OPS. I know it's only 70 at bats or 70 plate appearances, but like he's been incredible. He's got amazing defense. And I will say, I thought when they signed Kershaw that it was crazy figuring how many pitching arms they had that were good. I'm like, why are they signing Kershaw? It looks really good right now because he's going to be there to just kind of help them get through this very tough stretch. And you back to the offense, if you take any of these guys besides maybe like Conforto and Jung Ho Lee, like I would take pretty much every Dodgers hitter over the Giants hitter. Like
Yeah.
you said, it's not even comparable.
Right.
Um, and like the Dodgers have been at the top of the National League in OPS for a while now. I know the Cubs are right there too, but this team is insane on offense. And their offense has been healthy, which is a scary sight. I know their pitching hasn't been, but when their pitching gets healthy, this team's going to be even more of a force than they are now.
And even looking at, I wanted to go over to the Giants roster resource now. So the Elliot Ramos has probably been their best hitter for the full season. It's an 843 OPS. And then Dominic Smith, who I have kind of just started playing with him. I'm not sure what his like. I think he was a free agent, and I think they chose him over Lamont Wade, and then he got DFA'd. He's been good since he's started, but how dependable is that for a 30-year-old that's played 6 years in the MLB? I don't know. But like I would even just point to the bench between these two teams. Like you could say what you want about the offense, and yeah, the Giants, they have their ways of winning, which is different from the Dodgers, and you can see that obviously. But I mean, comparing the benches for the Giants, you have Logan Porter, who's your backup catcher. Let's compare him to Dalton Rushing, who's the backup catcher for the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Christian Koss is your kind of one of your infield utility men. Compare him to Ha-Seong Kim. Then you have Harar and Encarnacion, outfield first baseman. I guess maybe that's like Miguel Rojas or something like that. And then Daniel Johnson, outfield depth as well. I don't have the Dodgers in front of me, but let me go to them really quick. So Dodgers bench on like a kind of let's just say it's I guess against a righty or lefty. You got rushing Miguel Rojas, Enrique and Kike Hernandez, and then Ha-Seong Kim. So even looking at that, I think that's pretty telling in my eyes.
Yeah.
Dodgers, I feel way more confident in plugging and playing if another guy goes down or giving guys breaks. Giants, I think they get so thin so fast. And
Yeah.
maybe the Giants are just like another one of these teams, like a Guardians, like a Brewers, and it seems to be. you and I's like bane of existence where we're just like, why are these teams winning? Why are these teams good? And Giants could be another case of they just that culture, they just find ways to win, I guess. And to me, that's really hard to bet on. I'm gonna bet more on what I see, on paper, and I think that's why I think we're both kind of with the Dodgers on this one.
Yeah, if you're Dave Roberts, this is a fun lineup to construct.
Hmm.
And like even like the bullpen and like this has always been a fun team to kind of like their lineups always kind of twisting. Like they don't like nothing's set in stone with this lineup. Whether you're facing a righty, lefty, like a flamethrower, or just like a soft kind of control guy, like they're always gonna like. It seems like he really knows when to push the right buttons. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Um, do you want to talk? I know you said you're a little bit on the Braves. Do you want to go over to the East and we can talk about them for a bit?
well, this is kind of an overarching question
Okay.
over the MLB, and I know we're gonna ask like another question about the who the best team is, but who between these two and unless you have a team that is more disappointing than these two, which I find that hard to believe, but the Braves or the Orioles, which team is more disappointing this year?
Um, I would say the Braves. I would definitely say the Braves because I remember at the end of last season, or kind of the narrative throughout most of the season was, or last season, 2024, was like the Braves. I can't remember if it was injuries or just like the offense was just like slumping really badly. Do you remember what, like, because there was like a reason why they weren't like, the 100-win team Braves, right? Do you remember that? Where it was kind of like they were just trying to like be like, oh, just wait until like this, or just wait until next season when we like get healthy again, or like when we were saying, I think it was in the off season, like they just can't be this bad again, or like this like
Yeah,
okay again. Do you remember that?
yeah.
So like that kind of argument, right? Where it was like I think they won 87 games last year,
Mhm.
barely clawed their way into the playoffs. Did they? Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Like fought super hard to get in. And then heading into this season, it was like there's just no way that they can be like that they will be like that again, right? This team is too talented for that to happen. And now we see them worse than they were
Which is
probably.
crazy.
Yeah, right. So in my eyes, and even though I picked the Orioles to win that division, whatever, I was wrong. I was super high on them. And so maybe I could say, yeah, the Orioles have let me down the most. But I think the Braves have kind of done that on their own, where everybody believed in them to be better than what that was last season, and
Yeah.
everybody was expecting them to be a front runner in the NL East. Everybody was expecting them to be, even a one seed in the National League. And now on June 14th, they find themselves 8 games below 500. Not even 8 games back in like a division race. 8 games below 500.
Yeah.
14 games back in the division lead, and then 8 games back in the wild card. So um, and like you could even point to a lot of their players, and I want to pull up the stats because these were guys that kind of struggled last year and have continued to struggle this year in a way. Like talking about like a Matt Olson, and I'm gonna pull it up right here. Matt Olson had like it was still a pretty good year last year, but not like say Matt Olson. This year it's a little bit better, 826 OPS, but we've seen better from Matt Olson. Ozzy Albies is another guy. A lot of people were kind of waiting for him to bounce back, and we've seen good seasons from him. This year, 635 OPS, a below average hitter.
Bad,
Michael
bad,
Harris, this what?
very bad.
Yeah. Michael Harris the second is another guy a lot of people have been waiting on. He's still 24, so he's got time. But specifically talking about this year, 625 OPS, 69 WRC plus. Um, and like Austin Riley, even too, 774 PS. He hasn't returned to form. And like this is the conversation we were having last year, where like, oh, just wait till these guys like get back to where they were in, 2023, 22, whatever it was. Like, will they get back to hitting like the Braves hit? And we're kind of seeing just the same thing from last year, but it's almost even worse than it was last
Yeah.
year. And obviously Acuna coming back has helped a lot. He's already accumulated 1.4 F4, by the way, in 83 plate
Oh,
appearances. Um, He's got a 1.125 OPS with a 211 WRC plus. And like I guess that is even like discouraging now because, you know, at the start of the season too, it was like, okay, just wait for Strider and Acuna to come back. Now Acuna's back, and you've actually probably been, I think you have the stat, right? Where like they've been playing worse, or like it was like,
At one point they were like 2-8, 2-9 in the first 10 or 11 games with Acuna.
and that ha probably hasn't gotten any better from when you saw that stat either.
No.
Um, and then like I'll quickly just go over the rotation. So Strider's been back. He had one start when he came back, went back on the IL. He's pitched 25 innings to a 5.4. He hasn't been any help at all. Sale, I think Chris Sale was a guy or when we talked about him last, I think his ERA is up in like the fours, down to a
Yeah.
2.7, so that's awesome that he's been
Yeah.
playing better. But outside of that, it's, Schwellenbach's probably your two, and then it's Grant Holmes and Bryce Elder, who have looked good at points, bad at other points. And so, yeah, I think it's the Braves. And even like when we would talk about them at the start of this season, like it's the same conversation. Like, oh man, the Braves can get hot at any moment, and they probably still could. But like, how much longer can we wait on this team, right? And like, eventually, it's going to be too little, too late, and we're going to be saying probably the same thing next season. So I think the Braves have been the most disappointing for me.
Yeah, it was the Braves the whole way, and I know you were high on the Orioles, higher on them, so that's kind of why I asked the question. I was lower on the Orioles, especially their pitching staff. So when I see their pitching staff be bad when I expected it to be, that doesn't really surprise me. However, their offense has been very disappointing, so that could be your kind of counter to that argument. But what was interesting with the Braves at the beginning of the year, you almost sold me on it because I know you went Braves for the division, I went
Mhm.
Phillies. And your argument was like they won 87 games and made the playoffs. So they were still looking at that, they were still a good
Yeah.
team. While you look at last year and like their hitters, a lot of them had a down year, and it was pretty clear that they had a down year. So like if they were any better than they were last year, like they're gonna win this division. And it was like starting to sell me. And now to see them do this and to like be on this pace, it is definitely very disappointing. And I know one of my argument against you when you picked them for the division was like Chris Sale is there's no way Chris Sale can be this good. Chris Sale has been that good. I'm looking at his stats right now. When do you think the last time that he gave up over 2 earned runs was?
Uh, I would say like early April. He's been on a really good stretch.
You got it. So it's April 13th was the last
Okay.
time he gave up 3 earned runs. And it's been 11 starts. So
Mm,
this is dating back to 516. 7 innings pitched, 1 earned run. 7 innings pitched, 1 earned run. 6 innings pitched, 0 earned run. 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, and then 7 innings pitched for 1 earned run.
could you?
And everyone has like 10 Ks, 11
Okay.
Ks, 8 Ks.
That's what I was going to ask what the strikeouts per the game was because
Yep.
it says almost 12 Ks per nine right now. So I believe that.
So even when Chris Sale is performing how he played last year, maybe like slightly regressed, but like still elite.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, Acuna come back, which they didn't have him much last year at all, and when he was out there, he wasn't great. Like for them to still be bad is very, very surprising and very disappointing.
It is interesting to look at the team ranks. So they're 15th in OPS, 13th in starting pitching ERA, and 13th in relief pitcher ERA. So like by those numbers, you'd expect them like if you look at the Angels team rankings, it's way worse. Like bottom 10, bottom 5 in a lot of the categories. And
Yeah.
now with the Braves, they're top half of pretty much every category if you wanted to look at that.
Hmm.
And they're still 8 games below 500, and that's with a plus 18 run differential too, which
Yeah.
so maybe the Braves are like do they
Well,
just not have the it factor right now or like what
I'm
is
gonna
that?
look it up right now. I feel like they're blowing a lot of games.
You're
I
probably
think
right.
it's probably those 1 run games. Let's see what their bullpen ERA is. I'm guessing it's fairly low.
Yeah,
Oh, it's 13th, so it's still not even like
no.
it's still above average. Maybe it's what you say. Maybe they just don't have it. Maybe they're just not clutch in close games and they're just blowing teams out, just
Well,
stomping on teams' throats when they're like up 5 runs and they just start pouring it on. I don't know what it is.
okay, so I just looked it up. So I think this is StatMuse. Records. MLB team records in games decided by 1 run or less. The Braves are 9-38. I do you, do you think that's pretty how is that right? That cannot be right.
So all 38 losses are
Yeah, no. I don't know what I'm looking at. I can't I there's got to be a way to just to
Yeah,
find this. Oh, here we go. Okay. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm on ESPN now. This should be better.
okay, okay.
Okay, so the Braves are 9-19 in 1-1 games. That sounds a little bit
That
better.
that's it. That's what it is. And I'm guessing that's the worst.
Oh yeah, and then okay, so back to the Angels. They're 13-5 in 1-run games. So I guess that's
That's the answer right there.
yeah.
That's it.
I think the worst team, yeah, the worst team is the
Oh,
White
White Sox.
Sox. They're 4-17 in 1-run
Oh,
games.
that's
Even
kind of sad
the
because
Rockies are 7-12. The Rockies are better in 1-run games than the White Sox are.
that's sad because it means the White Sox are playing good ball
Oh yeah,
most of the
100%.
time, but they just can't get it done. What's the Tigers?
Tigers are 12-7.
Okay,
That might be one of the better marks. The Mets are 15-10, so pretty close. Giants are 17-13.
makes sense. Yeah.
Uh, Astros 11-7. So a couple teams kind of around that kind of top end. Boston is 8-17, so that might explain kind of their woes. Interesting. I've never really looked deep into these 1-run games and how much I feel like the correlation is pretty strong, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think you can see that pretty easily in the records. Do you have anything on the Central? I do have one quick question for you. And I
Okay.
feel like I've asked you this before. Um, Brewers or Cardinals? Who do you like more?
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee?
Yeah. The Cardinals have, well, I guess it's an easy
Yeah.
time to say Milwaukee because the Cardinals are on a 6 game skid, but again, this is kind of like an Astros argument. I know the Milwaukee hasn't really done anything, especially in the playoffs, but I I still think Milwaukee's like right there with the Cubs. I've been on Milwaukee like all year, and I'm not gonna stray away from that.
Mm,
Especially with Steele and Imanaga going out for the Cubs, and I'm kind of twisting this to Cubs Milwaukee because I don't really see the Cardinals. They're still a good team, but I don't see them as nearly as much as a competitor in that division as Milwaukee.
interesting.
Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I'll let them play it out and see.
Yeah, fair enough. I know because even when the Cardinals were kind of at their peak, I guess this season, you were still again pretty dead low on them. So I just wanted to see if that changed at all. And obviously, easier to say for you now with Milwaukee. Starting to kind of find their footing and
Hmm.
start to play like Milwaukee. So, all right, real quick, we'll get us wrapped up here. I just wanted to ask you, and I'll answer it too. Who is the best team in the MLB right now? I think this is a question that's probably, I mean, it's talked about, but I think when you really sit down and look at the top teams in each division, it's not always easy to say who the best team is. So, and especially with you, I know the Tigers might be obviously what you're going to say, but I wanted to hear what you actually thought.
What I actually thought is the Tigers. I mean, this team they've been incredible. You look at like there's almost no place that you can poke a hole in the Tigers. They're 10th or 11th in bullpen ERA, and usually that's like what they're the best at. So I think that's actually going to get better. Plus 94 differential, 46 and 25 for the best record. They haven't lost 4 games in a row yet all year, and 3 game losing streaks has only happened twice. So like their valleys are like not that bad of valleys. Home, they're 24-9. Away, they're 22-16. Against teams over 500, they're 21-17. Like there's really I don't think you can poke a hole in this team at all, which is so surprising, like comparison to last year and the years prior, especially in this offense. This offense, before Parker Meadows is out, if you have Javi in center, every single player has a WRC plus over 100.
Mm.
And this kind of made me think about when you brought up which team was it you brought up and you're like their best player has like an 840 OPS. Was it the Blue Jays?
Giants with Ramos.
Okay. So with that argument, I kind of like it more when teams have that because it means they have a lot of depth, which
Mm.
is kind of the Tigers because Wenzel Perez has 885 OPS, but I'm going to ignore that because he only has 50 plate appearances. But other than that, it's Torque and Green at 844 and 833. And then everybody else is high 700s. So like these guys are just there's just depth all around. Like there's no hole in this lineup. Dingler's been amazing. I think he should be an all-star. Probably not starter over Cal Raleigh or Kirk, but maybe like a if somebody gets hurt or something, hopefully he can like fill in. McKinstry, I think he's the ideal like utility all-star guy. Like I said, Green and Torque have been amazing. Carey's been kind of slow, so I think he's actually gonna get better. And then you were higher on this guy, Glaber. He hit 2 home runs yesterday. He is amazing. Like he's played so consistent, especially in Comerica. I know there's a lot of doubters, including myself, saying that it's going to be tough going from the Yankees, like small little stadium, to playing in Comerica. He's been great, and his defense has been really good too, which has been a pleasant surprise. So,
And he's walking more than he's striking out. That's always pretty good.
mhm. And which is yeah, that surprised me too. And this isn't even looking at like the pitching side. I'll touch on this briefly, and then you can talk about your team. But Scooble with a 3.6 F4, 199 ERA, 90 innings, point 0.9 whip. He's incredible. I think he's the best pitcher in the MLB. I know you can go Skeens, you can go Wheeler. But I think considering last year what he did too, I think you can kind of say that with certainty right now that he's the best pitcher.
Hmm.
And then you got Flaherty, who's been much better, 3.4 ERA, and then Casey Mize, he's finally back. He's got a 2.95 ERA. And then you got it's just there's so much depth with Montero and Gibson Long. Even when they give you like low fours ERAs, when your offense, like I said, when it's that deep and it's producing, that's good. Um, and unfortunately, Job's out, but we're still waiting on Cobb and Olson just started. Reese Olson just started a rehab stint. So this team is, I think they're built perfect in terms of depth for the regular season. In terms of the playoffs, I that's where it gets kind of scary, but we can talk about that more when it's not June 14th.
Yeah, I think this is going to surprise you, but mine's the Tigers too. Um, I think it was probably between the Tigers and the Mets for me, honestly. Um, I think the Mets are probably the closest team that you could argue with the Tigers. But back to what you were saying with the Giants, it's a little bit of a different story with the Tigers because, like, really when you look at the Giants, like it's the 843 OPS, and then it goes down to like a maybe like it's Jung Hooley at like a seven something,
Yeah.
and then you're in the 600s really quickly. With the Tigers, a couple or one or two guys touching eight, then you have a lot in seven. And then it's only really Parker Meadows that's in the sixes right now, and that's coming off injury and still trying to find his way back. But the Giants are not going to see eight guys or nine guys with 100 WRC plus above 100, and so it really is just this like I don't want to call them role players because that's not what they are, but
I mean, kind of.
in a way it is like that where it's just a bunch of guys who fit really well in a team and they're not gonna like there's not gonna be a lot of like league leaders in this lineup or like superstars, I guess you could say, but
Mhm.
the team just plays well together and they have a lot of key contributors, which is super helpful where your offense isn't relying on one or two really good guys. And you're kind of seeing that maybe with like a Mariners right now, where sometimes or like some games you only feel like you're getting a home run or two from Cal Raleigh and that's it. You
Yeah.
never see that with the Tigers. It's so spread out. And even like coming off the bench, I think you'd be hard pressed to find much better of a catching combo than Dylan Dingler and Jake Rogers. I think
Hmm.
both play their role very well. And then Sweeney, Baez, Jamani Jones, and I know Ibanez, and there's a couple other spots that could kind of fill in here on the bench, just depending on what's going on. But like Sweeney and Baez are probably gonna be up for most of the season, I would
Yeah.
assume. So like having those guys on your bench, like Baez is now not below replacement level player, which is huge. And like Sweeney could be good just to fill in, or if you need a good lefty bat in a pinch hit
Hmm.
situation. I guess to like keep it short and sweet, the Tigers are just like so steady, and I think at the start of the year I was kind of just waiting for them to like regress maybe a little bit and be
which
more of
is
like
fair.
a middling team or something like that. But they have probably been the most dependable team you could watch this whole year, where it is continuous and like constant getting better and improving that record where you're not swaying back and forth on the pendulum so much. Like they have I think since the start of the season, been the best team in baseball. Like, and you could just watch them, and you would say that
Yeah.
too. Like, they play a very, very good brand of baseball, and I think that is very clear to see. And I think they're just sneakily and quietly one of the best built teams in the MLB. So I think, and I mean, like, you could even just say like the boring record stat, like boring, right? They're I think 4 games better than any other team with 46 wins. So like even just looking at it from that, oh, the Mets. The Mets have 45 wins, so 1 game better than the Mets. But even if you just want to do the record thing, which is like, not looking at the team or anything, they have the best record in the MLB. They've had the best record for a couple weeks now. Like
Hmm.
it's so hard to not say the Tigers, I feel like. I feel like they're just like the easy answer, right? Like they are the
Yep.
best team in baseball. So I'm in agreement with you on that.
I love it. This is
Apparently
like
we
this
need
is making
to
my weekend. Talking about June 14th, and we're talking about the Tigers being the best team.
I don't
Not
think you
bad.
would you have expected that back in March?
Best team? No, there's no way. I thought they were gonna be decent, but this is blown me away. So I'm just gotta enjoy it while it lasts, I guess.
That's true. That's true. I think we got to find more topics we disagree on apparently because I
I
guess
know it's I don't mean to just agree with everything, but right now a lot of stuff is kind of cut and dry.
that's true. That is also true. There's not You could really pinpoint discussions and find some difference, but I think at the end of the day, some of this stuff is kind of clear to see. So I guess we
Well,
might have to do
real
some.
quick, ex going off of what we're just saying right now, other than the Giants and the Dodgers being tied for that division, and then the Padres close by, and that's the Dodgers. So like, there's a reason why we're saying that they're going to win that division. Every other division is 4.5 games plus between the first and second. So like,
Hmm,
there's teams that are separating themselves, which I hope that that number can narrow. Besides the Tigers number, I hope they win by 30 games. But all the other teams, I hope that there's like somewhat of a division race. But right now, it's just everybody's just kind of separating themselves from that second team in the division. So that's why it's more cut and dry right now.
that's true. Yeah, and you kind of have to more talk about like wild card positions now, where it's like
Yeah.
that's really where you're gonna find the tight races instead of
Hmm.
divisional. But yeah, we'll see how that all plays out now too, especially as we get deeper into summer. Longer season starts to kick in, a little bit of fatigue, stuff like that. So it'll be super interesting. I think that's all we have for you though. Kept it short and sweet, under an hour today, so that's really good. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. If you made it this far, if you want more loose and groovy baseball content, you can follow us on all social medias. Those links will be down below. Signing off for me and Parker. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.